Yeah, in case anybody's actually seeing this, that I'm waiting to see it register on my phone. Hey, there we go. Mayang buntag, mayang hapon, mayang gabi, no matter where you are in the world.
Hi,
As you can see,
everyone.
we've got a couple of guest stars here today too.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, I realize the top of my head's kind of cropped off, but Chana's been sitting here pretty good. So, but somebody needed
Loving.
some loving time in a pants change. Good morning, Mr. Brandon. How you doing today? And good morning, Philippine Experience. How you doing today? We got some news about the update. Apparently, the 21st of March is the soonest we can get in to the embassy.
Everyone. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Mr. Dan, how you doing this
Hi,
morning?
Brandon. Okay. Let's go. Find some place. Sorry. She'll breakfast.
Huh?
She's not in the mood.
Oh, okay. If she wants to sit, she can sit.
She's got bored. So.
Yeah, she's getting to that phase where she gets bored fairly easily.
Okay, you can talk. I'll just gonna hug.
But anyways, we sent off letters. Mangabi Jojo. We sent letters to our senators, Kristen Simnia and Mark Kelly, and the representative for our district, asking about, can you intervene or make a phone call or something to the embassy and possibly try and get them to expedite paperwork that we're both U.S. citizens. It's not a matter of if, that it just should be 10 minutes paperwork to get this stinking thing done. We did that yesterday, our time, so that they just got it Monday, their time. We're hoping by the end of the week to hear back from them and possibly from the embassy, if any, if all goes well. Like I say, it should be a 10-minute paperwork thing that we really don't even need to be there for. We got the appointment for Chana's Philippines passport, and that one's in process and being sent to tow chip. We had made tickets to go back to Cebu on the 20th, and this Thursday. Late last week, they clamped down and no vax, no fly policy. Cindy and I are both unvaxxed. To be considered fully vaccinated here, you have to be 2 weeks after your second dose, which means even if her and I were willing, wanted to, and went down this morning to get one, it's still going to be a month before we could fly. So we're at this point, I think we're choosing to hold off on it at least until we get back to Cebu. With current situation, current policies, there's a somewhat realistic chance we're going to bite the bullet and just go get vaccinated when we get back to Cebu.
Oh, Mama didn't make milk.
Hey, dear.
Mama didn't make milk. And hey, everyone.
Can you say hi to everybody? Can you say hi?
She said, I'm not in the mood.
Bear with me, people.
I can have it. Hold on. Let me just warm up some.
No, I got it.
She's not in the mood. She might be sleeping.
She just wants to sit up and see everything. My Buntak Scoopy, how you doing? See, she's happy. She just wants to see everything. Yeah. she's getting to that point where she kind of wants to be involved with it with as much as we're doing as possible. But yes, she is getting a little bit sleepy from the yawn too.
I'm gonna ask her again.
But we looked into the ferry. Again, you need vax to even do the ferry. We looked at possibly going to Clark to get out of here to get back to Cebu. And a friend of ours, it's from a little bit north of where Clark Air Force Base is. Pangasinan is where he's from, but he comes into town. He comes into Manila every couple of weeks, and he happened to be here this Sunday. Oh, that's a big old yawn. You really are tired, aren't you?
Yeah, it's fine. You can put it here.
But he was saying that there are checkpoints that they do check both in and out. Not everybody in private vehicles gets checked, but enough random do that he wouldn't count on it. So apparently even going to Clark is not a possibility. As long as they're on level 3 or 4, which they're on 3 right now.
You can put her here. I will let her sleep.
Somebody's gonna go take a nap. Hey, Mr. David, how you doing today?
There you go.
Somebody's gonna go take a nap.
Yay!
But so even trying to get to Clark is not realistically doable at this point without being vaxxed. There's been a couple of times. Yeah, I may get in trouble for saying this, but another friend of mine made comment that he doesn't carry his vax card with him. He just shows a picture of it. And so I downloaded a picture of one. And a couple of times I've gotten into a store that they were happy just seeing the card and they did their thing. And so it's all good. But as far as checkpoints or anything like that, the friend that came down said, no, they want the actual, because I suggested that. They said, no, they want the actual card and they check for an ID and compare the two. And it would be not likely to get through the actual checkpoints.
She passed out then.
Oh, that was fast. And a lot of places are. Mama, Papa especially was real adamant about not wanting the vaccine. And now they have appointments in Sabunga to go down to the center and get vaxxed. It's gotten that bad. The case counts, it went off the frickin' charts. That not too long ago, they actually were down to less than 500 cases.
No, it's 30 plus, 37.
Yeah, they were down to under 500 cases a day. And now all of a sudden it's back up to some insane amounts. The Viber CNN Philippines news feed. Yesterday's case count was it? Yeah, it's just not focusing.
37.
Was it 37,070 cases, new cases yesterday? They're saying they've got a 46% positivity rate, but they're not. People aren't looking at the other end of this. That there were only 23 out of that 37,000 and 290,000 active cases. There was 23 deaths and 33,900 recoveries. So that they're not looking at all the numbers. They're looking at the worst number and calling it good. which is kind of screwing over everybody else. And Sabuni, you got to be vexed to get anything, correct?
Not yet, but there are a lot of people falling in line after getting vax.
Because of the, yeah, and Sabuni, I guess it's getting to the point where pretty much everywhere, even in the provinces, that they're doing this no vax, no ride, no nothing thing.
Yeah, but that's why Papa are forced to do it because every transaction they need vax.
I don't know if
They
you
don't
heard.
have a choice.
I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, Cindy was just saying that pretty much anything they try to do, you got to have a vax card to get to do it, and it's just gotten crazy. And like I say, Cindy and I are contemplating it. The hard part of getting it done here is, even like I say, even if we went down today, you get one shot today. Then in 2 weeks you go back for the second, and then you're not considered fully vaxxed until 2 weeks after that. So you got 2 weeks to go down for the second shot, and then another 2 weeks. So you got a total of 4 weeks, even if you got the first shot today. So it would basically put it at the end of February before we could. So I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of putting us in a bad situation right now. Outside of Metro Manila, I don't know if they're being insane, but you can't get in or out of Manila at this point without being vaccinated. So if we could go down and find a Johnson & Johnson, I'd do that in a friggin' heartbeat, just simply because it's probably the worst possible choice for vaccine. But at least it's a one and done situation to where we could travel in 2 weeks. But that's part of the issue here is you can't pick. And not only can you not pick, they have the China vac and the Russia vac in the mix. I haven't heard from Agnes or Andy down in that area, but yeah. Getting vaxxed is not a choice. I'm pretty sure both of us, if it's at all possible, we'll avoid it. But it may be to the point where we just don't have a choice any longer. And if that's the case, we got no choice but to suck it up and deal with it.
Especially here in the Philippines, because they're like enforcing, if you don't have vaccination card and then you're wondering, you will get arrested.
Yeah, the IATF is real seriously talking about if you're out in public not getting groceries or vital necessity, medicine or groceries, and you can't show a vax card, you're talking about arresting people again. And I am not anti-vax. That we repeatedly had this discussion. I don't have a problem with vaccines. It's just, one, I hate being forced into it, and then on top of it, there's too many side effects. This thing was way too rushed to market. I am not comfortable with this vaccine. I don't follow the Dr. James Campbell. I believe I've watched a couple of his videos, but I don't follow him as such. And Jojo, that's actually bottom line. My biggest complaint is the forcing people into it.
Oh, pwede.
And Philippine experience, John, that's exactly it. The liberals, the ones that are most,
Nakita namin
the people that are most forcing this are the same ones that say, well, my body, my choice for every other decision. And so it's very contradictory on their part, very, very two-faced on their part. And yeah, I just, no, I don't, I am not happy with the current situation on that. Yeah, it's my understanding in the US that they're actually trying to do no vax, no travel policies. They're just getting a lot more blowback from it and a lot more avenues to have blowback than they do here. And I'm certain that there probably is no problem with it. Like I said, I don't have a problem with vaccines in general, but I just don't like being forced into it to begin with. And yeah, I really hate situations to where for something this silly, they're saying papers, please all the time. I accept I'm a visitor in this country. And there's been a couple times that I've been asked, hey, can I see your passport? Can I see your, and I'll generally show them the iCard, the ACR card that I've got, and they're happy with that. And that they talk with whatever. There's been a couple times before I had the ACR card that I just pull out the passport and showed it to them. I can understand that, but this, they don't care about your immigration status at this point. They just want to see that stupid vax card. And that's no, I have a little bit of an issue with that, and that's part of the reason why we're trying to go back to the States. Quite honestly, that is part of the reason why. With a vax card, you can do most traveling, and it's a lot better here. We're just in a particular situation. If we were in Cebu to where we didn't have to travel, there would probably be a stronger chance we would get it. If we could get back to Cebu, at this point, we would probably just get the vaccine and be done with it. But if we start the process, we're stuck here a month. We've got this condo rented until the end of the month, and we could probably extend it another month. But then that's tying us up and not being able to get back to Cebu to take care of all the things that we need to get done there. Quite honestly, if we could get back to Cebu, we'd take the vax and go get the things done we need to do and probably come back late, middle of March and just plan on staying here. That yeah, they've still got international travel pretty much in any direction, all bollocksed up. And David, that's actually what I'm trying to do. And that's bottom line, that we're uncomfortable enough here at this point that we're trying to get back to the States, but we're having difficulty doing even that. Until this latest surge happened, things were relaxing quite a bit, and most people were expecting this to fade away in just a few months. And then when this case count just started exploding, I heard the powers that be just started panicking and shutting everything back down again. When we got here, we were able to come here with just a plane ticket, that they didn't even care if we were tested. We were going to have to test to go back to Cebu. That we knew, but that wasn't a big deal to us. But now, after being here with tickets to go back, we can't go back. And we kind of missed our window of opportunity to go back about a week ago. That if we would have had round trip tickets booked to the point where we were heading back, it's not that it wouldn't have been, we could have gotten out of here if we would have gotten out of here before the 15th. And from what I'm understanding, the Omicron is basically just a bad cold. I've known a couple of people that have had it back in the States, and that they were confirmed with COVID, and it just was a bad cold. That they didn't even have the astronomical temperatures or anything else that had been typical with COVID at this point. Yeah, that it's getting crazy. And like I say, that right now, I don't like the idea of being forced into it, but at this point, just to simplify life, I'd be willing to get vaccinated. But it would make trying to get vaccinated at this point would make travel actually worse than not getting vaccinated and waiting it out. So, but there again, if we wait it out, there's no guarantee that it's going to end. So we just don't know which way to jump at this point. And that's the biggest part of the problem, is we just don't know which way to jump.
We'll just find a J&J vaccine, because it's only one dose.
If we could know somebody that was willing to do it, or that we could find it, I'd be more than willing to go down and do it, because that could get us out of here by the end of the month.
I'll find one.
If you can find one, we will both go get the stupid thing. I don't care at this point. And from the videos that I have watched, I believe that is true. That I guess in the U.S., like 80% of the cases that they've done the testing on are the Omicron variant, and that it's actually pushing Delta and the others to the side. Jojo, your comment was held for review. We're going to try showing it and see what happens. Yeah, it showed. Cool. And I'm even Gates, even Bill Gates did an interview that he admitted that, yeah, the vaccines aren't really working. Way too many breakthrough cases, way too many problems with it. Omicron is taking over, and the natural immunity that it gives is actually better than the immunity you get from the vaccine. So go figure. One of my biggest concerns with the vaccine right now, and I don't know how well this has been looked into. Both Cindy and I have had COVID back in the States before we came. And so I'm a little concerned about taking the vaccine after you've had the disease. So I don't know. But right now, as it looks, unless we get help from the embassy, or unless we get help from the Congress critters back in the state, I don't picture us getting out of here before the end of April, beginning of May at the absolute earliest. Realistically, probably middle, late May. maybe even as late as June. If we have to keep the March appointment, as soon as we can get back to Cebu, we will go back, take care of everything that needs to be taken care of, and just come back with bags packed and leave from here in Manila. That we've got a friend of ours, or a friend of my sister's, I should say, that lives up in Subic. And so we could get a free place to stay at that point, assuming travel was a little bit easier to get in and out. And we could just have them hold the passport at the embassy and pick it up on our way out. Spend a day here and pick it up and leave. Because it has been so long since we've had it, they're saying the antigens wouldn't still be present in your system unless you had active COVID at the moment. And then they would be able to detect a large amount of them in your system, showing that you're already immune. And that's something that it isn't terribly well understood or shown. A lot of times, even after you have immunity, natural or otherwise, when you're exposed to it, the antigens in your system know how to react and react quickly and take care of it to the point where you may not even have symptoms for it. And that is something that they're considering was a strong possibility. The coronavirus family is a pretty big family, and a lot of common colds are actually a coronavirus. And so they're thinking that may be why so many people are asymptomatic, is that they probably have had a similar enough version of a cold that was caused by a COVID virus to have a natural immunity to start with. And that way your body just handled it without ever getting sick or getting minimally sick. And so that they believe there's probably a whole lot more people, depending on who you talk to, they believe there's probably a whole lot more people out there with natural immunity as it is that they just didn't take into account. I'm thinking by the end of probably February, things will be close to normal again. No.
We keep doing it. It's just like that.
Yeah, it's a freaking never-ending cycle at this point.
I'm trying to be positive, but the reality is just like,
the reality is they're making it really hard to be positive. Sadly, I'll have to agree with Cindy that I've been saying I this can't go on much longer. It's got to end in the next month or two. Then I've been saying that for the last year now. And every time Cebu is actually getting fairly open and back to normal. There were some restaurants, but they were in the minority. And
kids are allowed in the mall.
Kids were allowed back in the malls. The arcades were opening. Some of the movie theaters were starting to open, and now all of a sudden everybody's like back to level 3, and now they're talking about possibly level 4, and it just.
There's a Bisaya quote like "Bangon Cebu," it's like stand up Cebu, and now higda Cebu because they're sick, and like laying down Cebu because they got sick. Bangon Cebu from other typhoon, so stand up Cebu, and now they're laying down because they got sick from that.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten crazy, and Dan, yeah, 2 years into this, and nothing has really changed. Yeah, Jojo, definitely in the U.S. I think midterms are going to show a lot. And as a matter of fact, I guess Sleepy Joe is actually talking about trying to back off on COVID and crap like that, trying to get this taken care of before the midterms. He's only got a couple months to do it in, so. And that's part of the problem is, Dan, you're perfectly correct that nothing's improved to this. The last couple, matter of fact, the COVID one, that the way they got rid of it is they stopped testing for it. And actually, the COVID one was actually SARS-CoV-1 was actually slightly worse as far as severity, fatality rate, and nearly as transmissible. And they just stopped testing for it so they didn't cause public panic under a different administration. And Jojo, that's a distinct possibility. Governments worldwide are kind of liking the authority and power that they've got now. Yeah, that they tried that with the American trucking industry, and yeah, that didn't go over terribly well. So yeah, a lot of drivers that come up from the U.S. probably aren't going to be vaccinated. My original preference on if we talked about this, if we had to get vaccinated, is for one of us to get completely vaccinated to make sure there was going to be no side effects. Neither one of us were going to be sick or anything like that. And then the other one go get vaccinated. So somebody was here to keep an eye on China. At this point, just simply to get it done, we may wind up having to mutually get vaccinated and hope both of us don't wind up having some of the more common side effects of being flu-like symptoms for a week.
We should do that. We have a really good interest.
Yeah, I keep teasing people between 40 years of smoking, concrete dust, cement dust, everything else I've inhaled over the last 50 years. There's not much virus. You know, there's got to be a good virus before it can survive in here. We probably will wind up getting vaccinated, to be bluntly honest with you. Cindy knows a few people here in town and is trying to find
I get the J&J, so we could just run those.
she flat out she's trying to find some place that's got J&J.
Because my grandma went to Bukidnon at Cagayan and they got kicked out because now in Mindanao we're so strict. You need to be vaccinated to arrive in a specific area. So they get kicked out. So now they went to the municipal hall and find the vaccination, or so they found the J&J, and yeah, they got a vaccination card now.
Who's from CDO?
David Brown.
David, if you're still with us, Cindy just said her grandmother went to CDO and got turned around, got kicked to CDO and had to go back to Malabalai. That no vax, no entry.
Yeah, and now she has a vaccinated going back.
That she had to go back to Malabalai to get vaccinated. And John, Philippine experience, that yeah, I think you are correct that there's just no choice at this point. That It's not a matter of wanting to travel at this point. It's a matter of wanting to leave your house.
Yeah, I go to the mall to get groceries.
Um,
You're not allowed to get in. I don't know, but Cebu will take a while before they implement that no tax, no entry, because with the typhoon and everything, Governor Gwen is really like, what are you gonna do? She's fighting over on that one.
and yeah, it's gotten to that point where it doesn't matter if you want it or not, that they're making life difficult enough that they've succeeded here what the U.S. wants to do. Uh, and that's part of the problem here is that you don't have a choice. And most of these sites are double blind, that they not only don't give you a choice, they actually have multiple different vaccines going on. So that as they go through one vial, they'll just randomly grab whatever the next vial is. So just because at 9 a.m. they have Johnson and Johnson doesn't mean at 11 they don't have Sinovac. Uh yeah, because it's an intramuscular shot. It's not a intravenous shot, so that they are supposed to do that for any shot that's an intramuscular shot. Uh, the only time that you should have that is if you're doing an intravenous shot, which they typically do through a through an IV situation. And yeah, sadly, a lot of times here, a lot of times in general, that they have gotten so used to it they don't. But there are a couple of veins up here that they can hit accidentally. Uh, and it's just again that they get so comfortable doing it, that they get so confident in it, that they a lot of times don't do stuff like that. My sister's, like I say, that she's a 50-plus year nurse, and admits that periodically she'll get sloppy and not do stuff like that, but tries to make sure that she pays attention and actually does do the procedures by the book, by the numbers, like they should be. Is there any chance you can make a coffee? You can say no. You can say no.
I'll make coffee for you.
Okay. I was going to turn it so I can make coffee and let them watch, but uh, yeah, you got to love our live streams. You actually get real life. As far as getting back to the States, like I say, we were hoping to get back by the 15th, or by April. And the only reason the 15th came to mind is we were going to file taxes in state, in country. With China being born, it's going to put enough new things. I'd rather do it in country back there through an actual CPA that knows the tax laws and all that good fun stuff. And we'd have, obviously at that point, we'd have a social security number for her and all this good rot. Probably going to talk with Cindy about filing an extension for this year to see if we can get it put off and just do it when we get back. Figuring we'll be back by June at the latest. After this Omicron surge burns itself out, I don't know. They may slow down and they may, yeah, but I've been saying this for a year now. I've been saying this for what, about 16 months now. After this surge burns itself out, I can't picture them going back to the hard nosed lines again. But who knows if there's not going to be another surge after this one that they're already talking about trying to find another variant to panic people with. But there's several virologists that are saying that the viruses naturally try to mutate down to a much less severe form, but more transmissible form. And the fact that Omicron is so transmissible and so minor that there's a chance that it may settle on this Omicron variant and call it good. And that Omicron will take over wherever it's at. Just because it is so virulent and transmissible. And they seem to be trying to work their way through the entire freaking alphabet. Oh, no worries. If this was kind of a spur of the moment live stream. If you're around on Thursday, my time Thursday, I am gonna try to see if I can do a walking live stream, both on being able to walk and signal strength. The last couple times I tried it when we first got here, signal strength just wasn't there because we're in too many buildings. So we're going to give it one more try and just see what happens. I am going to start posting a little bit more videos that we've got. Trying to do the setup every time that I set up the computer, because we're in a small studio. Oh, it's good having you here, and we appreciate the support you guys give the channel, especially in these last few weeks that it's been so hit and miss. That it's been almost a month since the hurricane, since everything went south. Yeah, no disrespect, Judge. Nothing personal about using south as a metaphor for bad. Yeah, it's just gotten crazy, and at this point, I know I definitely do, and Cindy's kind of getting to the point where we just want out. This has been fun, but stop the merry-go-round and let us off. But like David was saying earlier, if you don't like it, leave. And that's actually what we're kind of trying to do. That we'll get back to the States and just start getting a little bit better foundation on a lot of different fronts, and let this insanity settle down and mellow out, and just head back. If we would have known it was going to be this much hassle to get John's paperwork done, there's a chance we may have explored it a little bit more seriously about just going back. But there again, if we would have went back, the medical expense we would have had for China would have been insane too. So, and JoJo, that's exactly my feelings. None of these vaccines have a terribly good record of side effects. Long-term side effects are not studied, that they never were able to do any kind of long-term side effects studies, that the vaccines just weren't out there long enough. And it kind of worries me about taking something like that, especially after already having had the disease. It's kind of like having cowpox and then deciding to go take the smallpox vaccine. That I don't know. that kind of concerns me. I won't say it worries me, but it does concern me. But overall, I still like the Philippines. I'm not gonna say anything less than that. Overall, I think it's a lot more welcoming of people. It's overall a lot more peaceful and pleasant place to be in normal times. And I'm just hoping times get back to normal relatively quickly at this point. And at this point, with the way situations are, I don't care where you go in the world, it's getting crazy. And that's kind of what we were thinking. If we were going to be in a miserable situation, I'd rather be miserable in paradise than miserable in Phoenix. We didn't realize it was going to wind up turning into Paradise Lost before it finally got better. And that's kind of exactly what happened. Is it's turning into Paradise Lost at this point more than the paradise that it is and should be. But like I say, at this point, even here, the populace is getting tired of it. And before this latest scare with Omicron, Cebu was getting back to normal. The Dumaguete, the other provinces were starting to get back to normal. Manila was being a holdout and being stubborn about releasing, but it's also the major city and the major metro area in the Philippines, and that's been true all over the world. That the major metropolitan areas are the ones that have been the holdouts. Situations in the U.S. It's much worse in New York and LA than it is in Phoenix. And that's part of the reason why we didn't want to come into Manila when we initially flew in last year in 2019. We got here 2020. We got here in 2020. And well, down where you're at, Atlanta's probably a lot worse than the smaller cities, smaller towns. And it just is the same, in any place. London's way worse than the countrysides. And that was part of the reason for staying away from Manila as long as we could, as much as we could. And John, the Philippine experience, yeah, that's our kind of thing too. And unfortunately, we're stuck in it, and so it's not a whole lot of choice. We've got to pull the trigger. I've only been through Atlanta. I've never really been to Atlanta. I guess there's some beautiful, countryside and some beautiful things to it. But yeah, it's a liberal bastion, and unfortunately, most of the metropolitan areas worldwide tend to be, much more liberal than the rest of the country is. Phoenix is kind of an anomaly. That Phoenix is more conservative than a lot of the state. But you get outside of Phoenix area, and depending on where you're standing, it is polar opposites there. That either it's extreme liberal or extreme conservative. So, but Arizona has a lot of Indian reservation, and it's the demographics show it's not a racial stereotype or anything else, but the demographics actually show that the Indian reservations tend to be way more liberal than the general rural areas. And again, you get down in southern Arizona, and that gets exceedingly conservative very quickly. I noticed it's been about 50 minutes. Not a whole lot going on. We are going to call up Cebu Pacific today. That shortly after this, Cindy's going to get on the phone and see if we can somehow manage to fly out, with the fact we booked tickets before all this came down, with the fact we're going to go back and get the vaccination, whatever we got to say to allow them to see it. And hopefully be able to fly out back to Cebu on Thursday. If we can, we're gone. We'll take care of everything we need to back in Cebu and just be done with it. And then come back on the 21st, or come back probably about the 15th, and just deal with what we need to at that point. But for now, that my sinuses are starting to run. So before they start turning into Niagara Falls, and we, Andy and Agnes and a couple other people who were hoping to get down to that area the entire time we've been here, but travel has just been so locked down and hard. Oh, we appreciate that, and any thoughts and prayers would definitely be appreciated that we are able to travel like that. They're talking about authorizing in June to vaccinate infants, and so we definitely want to be out before that happens. But from Metro Manila, mabuhay.